to thriving in the age of disruption. Today, Dr. Ramesh chats with the unstoppable Vietnamese elite athlete, Miss Thanh Vu, who has just won the toughest race on the planet to become world champion in the Swiss Ultra Triathlon held in Switzerland.
Congratulations, Tang, on your outstanding recent win of the Swiss Ultra Triathlon 2022, which took place from the 14th to the 29th of August. This race was in Deca Continuous, which is 10 times the usual triathlon long distance. To put it into perspective for our listeners, it consisted of first Tang swimming 38 kilometers, then cycling 1,800 kilometers, and finally running 10 marathons, which equals 422 kilometers. Wow, wow, wow. Tang, how does it feel?
To be able to win the women's category at the Deca Ultra Triathlon World Championship is definitely a dream come true. I hope that from this experience, it will encourage more people, especially women, to tackle their own impossible dreams, to really allow themselves to push the limit, to break the boundaries, and to become the best version of ourselves.
Thank you for agreeing to be a changemaker guest speaker in our podcast series, Thriving in the Age of Disruption. I'm really excited to have you on board because you have an unusual passion, and that is extreme sports. And I wanted to kick off the discussion with having you introduce yourself. And you could do that by sharing about yourself, your life, and what you're doing.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's always really fun to talk to people about what I do. It certainly is different, but I hope that after some of my sharing, people may realize that it's actually not all that different from the goals and the dreams that they have in their own personal community or their own personal life. The best way to introduce myself is a little bit of my background and things that I do that I believe create meanings for my life and values for others. I am someone who loves challenges. And that kind of goes in all different aspects of my life, whether it was my education or it's my life choices, or it is things that I do, again, to make my life meaningful. So I am an ultra runner. What that means is that I participate in endurance races that go over really long distances, long period of time, and usually in very harsh and unique locations. They can be deserts or in the mountains or in a very unique area of the world. What ultra means in endurance sport is that the standard distance for a marathon is usually a little bit over 42 kilometers. Anything longer than that is considered an ultra race. So it can go from anything between 50 kilometers to 100 to 200, 300, even 1,000. So the races that I've done in the past, a lot of them are multi-stages. They would span across 250 kilometers. You have to run on average a marathon a day for the first 4 days. On day 5 or day 6, you may have to double the distance. A lot of the endurance challenges, a lot of people think that you have to be exceptional in terms of physical ability. The interesting fact is that it doesn't. I've seen many people with different walks of life who has completed the challenge and really proved that nothing is impossible. I've seen people who have lost their sight, completed the desert races. I've seen people who are amputees who have overcome sand dunes, river crossing, all of the crazy environmental challenges that you face in these kind of races to really inspire the communities around them. You know, you see also a variety of age groups as well. So if you think like the people who participated in these things are probably very young, very fit and very able, but in fact, the most common age group is middle age and above. So people are in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, and even 70s. They are incredibly resilient. A lot of the time, young people, there's a certain pitfall with youthful exuberance, right? One of the things that attract me to these races are also the patience that it has taught me. Young people tend to go out too quickly, too fast, and burn out before the middle of the race. But people with age, people who are experienced, I think they're very patient. They understand the long-term goals, right? They pace themselves and they manage the circumstances around them really well. And I think a lot of the lessons the ultra endurance athlete can take from these experiences to apply back in their normal daily lives are incredibly valuable. And that's why you see all sort of different occupations in the field as well, different vocation. You have CEO, you have executive, doctors, architects, students, sometimes you have housewives, all sort of different people. So there's really no limitation. It is really the experience that people come to prove that there's no limitation once you set your mind on to do something.
Thank you so much for giving us a detailed breakdown of the kind of people who actually participate in an ultra endurance race. Tang, this is something new to me. I've known you for several years now, but I didn't know the details of how you go about doing the race and the kind of people who participate. It sounds very extreme. On the other hand, it is actually very similar to an entrepreneurial mindset, because when someone has an entrepreneurial mindset, you're looking at problems, trying to figure out how to be resourceful, to create value from whatever that you're up to, as well as to manage the risk. And I'm sure along the way, as you pursued this passion, there must have been some high moments and low moments. If you can share what were those dangerous moments, that would be great.
I call them the defining moment. There would be highs and lows in running, similar to running a business or in your own personal life as well. There are moments you're just so happy, so elated. You think you can conquer anything in the world. And then the next thing you know, you're like afraid for your life. You are thinking, do I have enough water? Am I too slow? Can I get to the next checkpoint to get more water in time? There's those high and lows that you go through in running. It's almost like a miniature version of life, right? And what happens during those moments really tell you a lot about yourself. And that's what I love. I gain so much from those experiences that I can then take them with me in my normal daily life. I understand what makes me me when everything else seems to be going against you. The universe is not helping you out, just against all odds. What you think at that moment and what you decide at that moment really define who you are, because only you have the ability to make that judgment call whether you should or can continue. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs face that on a daily basis. Sometimes it's not always the smartest decision to keep going. There are races that I haven't finished, and they are the races that I remember the most because I learned so much. And not being defeated by those moments, I don't consider them failures. I consider them just one chapter of the book. Like, I'm going to come back. I'm going to learn the lessons that I've gained from that experience. You see that in your daily life too. There will be moments in life where you really have to be true to yourself and make difficult decisions, like whether to continue, whether to pursue something. You are clear. Nobody can tell you, oh, you're hurt or you're too tired, you shouldn't go on. There will be people telling you that before the race. There'll be people telling you that now is not the time to start a new business, to just have a baby, or it's not the great time, there's recession, there's COVID, etc. But only you know what you can do. And I love that saying, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. It's so true. I love those moments. It's just so telling and it's great training. I do these races every year to train myself in a way, trying to be the better version of myself every year.
how do you actually train for the race? Like, what would you do?
I get that question a lot. There's many different ways to train for these races, right? And my way is certainly not the only way, but it has come from a lot of research and asking for advice from the previous participant. First of all, it is to constantly adapt. Right? The environment out there changes a lot. The races that I've done are in desert that are cold, that are hot, dry, at altitude. So you have to constantly be disciplined with yourself. You can't just say, oh, I'm feeling thirsty, but just until the next checkpoint, I'll drink something. No, you have to manage yourself. You have to be disciplined. I'm so tired. Reaching into my bag or turning my head to drink from my hydration pack is really tiring right now. But you have to be really disciplined with yourself, and you do it. Or in certain heat, it gets so bad that you don't feel like eating anymore. You lose your appetite. But even if you don't feel like eating, you must find ways to replenish the calories and the energy that you are expanding. Discipline is actually very key. Adaptation can't happen without discipline, for sure. The second thing is getting your body used to the extended exertion. So you can train for it by going on multi-day treks. Those are great ways to get your body to get used to constantly cover really long distance every day. In my experience, I started doing back-to-back long run. I would do maybe like 20K, 25-kilometer on Saturday. And then on Sunday, I would do something like 26 kilometers. I remember the first time I tried to do consecutive long days like that. The next day, my rest day, I feel like the bus has ran over me. And I thought there's no way I could do this. That was so painful. And sometimes you slow down as well, and you get frustrated with yourself because you're thinking, oh, I should be able to run faster. If it's a shorter distance, I can definitely go faster, but I'm walking right now, I'm crawling right now, I'm literally just using my hands to pick up my foot, right? To pick up my legs. A lot of these races, again, people think you have to have incredible physical ability to do it, but actually 80% mental and 20% physical. You have to be disciplined, you have to constantly adapt, you have to be patient with yourself, and you have to understand the goal that you're trying to do very well. You need to understand what it means to you to reach that finish line, right? To uncover yourself in the process, to know more of yourself throughout the whole experience. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that training for an ultra endurance race is about preparing yourself mentally and physically. And mentally is almost like 80% of it.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you would do in doing that preparation would be to, number one, look at how you can have a mindset where you're constantly able to adapt and adapt very quickly, because the environment might change out there in the desert when you're there. And what goes hand in hand with that adaptation process is that you also have to have discipline. That you observe something and you have to do it right now, like take a sip of water, and you're going to do it even though you don't feel like it. And then number two is that whole physical part of it, where you're building your stamina, and part of it is pushing yourself on back-to-back sessions, where if you did 20 kilometers the first day, you're doing 26, just because you want to show your body that you can stretch that limit a little bit more. I like the last piece, and it really talks about that whole empathy and about understanding yourself, because you say patience is needed. Patience to understand yourself, to understand what your goal is about and why it's important, so that when that moment comes and you need that extra, to cross that extra mile, you've got something that you can dig deep into to get it out, right? Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making it easy for us to understand. I wanted to get your thoughts about how you deal with crisis. And I'm sure in your sport, you have dealt with that.
Unexpected things happen all the time out there, especially in the wilderness. When we were crossing the Black Gobi Valley, it was boiling hot. Like I've never experienced heat like that ever in my life. It literally felt like you're being baked in an oven. And there's no shades around, just scorching, and you feel like you're just gonna drop dead any moment. It was really very scary and very traumatizing. At that point, it was sort of like the record temperature for Gobi race. We just have to be sensible with everything, constantly checking, adjusting our clothing, drinking the water. Even drinking the water became a huge challenge because the ambient temperature of the water is hotter than your body. So keep drinking it makes your body heat up, but you need to drink to stay hydrated. So no matter what, I remember trying to eat and could not, but I know that if I'm not going to eat, I'm going to get into trouble. I'm not going to have enough energy to continue. That was just absolutely insane because that was the longest stage. It was 74 kilometer, and 30 kilometer in, you see some of the leaders, they are struggling as well. And that really scares you. Your mind started to go insane, started thinking like, who do I think I am? Even the top runners, they are struggling. Am I going to make it? In that situation, you have no choice but to remain calm, assess constantly everything. Is there anything I can open up to reduce my body temperature? How much water do I have? How often do I need to sip water? How much calories do I need to get into my body? And there's one point where I really just can't eat anymore, but I know I have to. So I just chew as much as I can and then spit it out. And I know it's better if I can actually eat it, but I know I'm just going to throw up. And so I just have to find the next best solution. Throughout the whole thing, remaining calm is critical. It's very scary. There was no shades and there's this little rock. And you see one of the top runner is huddling, trying to like hide under the rock. And you look at that, your mind go places and you get so scared. But again, remaining calm and keep doing things that you have to do one step at a time. Sometimes the wind would come and you think the wind would relieve some of the heat, but it really felt like someone took a giant hair dryer and blow it at you constantly. In those cases, you again have to assess the situation. I realize that as I get closer and closer to camp, the weather is probably going to get worse. The wind picked up stronger and the sand started blowing up everywhere. The faster I go within my ability is better because it's going to reduce the time that I'm out there. The longer I stay out there, the worse the weather can get. And so many factors can affect the race. So just within my ability, trying to do what I can as best as I can. When I get to camp, not long after that, I think I got to camp at like 10 p.m. at night. And completely relieved. But then the tent started collapsing because then the wind has turned into a sandstorm. And we're like huddling under these big rocks, crawling inside the rock to take shelter. I heard from some people at the back of the pack, they told us like how much worse it was because their visibility has completely gone. They couldn't see the markers on the course anymore, these little pink flags, and they would have to kind of travel in pack. One person would go out and try to find the next flag, pull out to the pack, and they would move bits by bits like that. It took them 5 hours just to do 5 kilometers. Eventually, the organizer evacuated the runners that were still on the course when the sandstorm got too bad. But it was certainly a crisis. I have never experienced anything like that in my life. the only way is to remain calm, constantly assessing the situation and do the best that you can do with what you have at that moment. Remaining calm is the key for me on that day. I mean, it teaches me that lesson continue to be applied throughout my daily life. Every time something difficult happened, every time work didn't go my way or life didn't go my way, or the fears started to take over, I have to remember back to that moment, just one step at a time, stay calm, no matter what, do the best that you can do at that moment. It was a very scary experience. It took me a while to get over it. I really had to rethink a lot of things as well. My goals that year, I still had 2 more races to complete after that race. And that race really kind of got me like, is it really worth it? Do I have the big enough why to continue? And I did find the why, I did find the courage to continue. I love that experience now. It taught me so much about being resilient and at the same time being calm and grateful for the situation. I think, yeah.
That's really awesome. I love how you have broken it up into the different steps that one can use in a crisis or a setback. And like you said, remain calm, assess the situation constantly, scan the environment, then do what is needed to the best of your ability, because whatever you need to do, you just have to do it. It's okay to do one step at a time. The other piece that I liked also what you talked about was move as a pack. It's sort of counterintuitive because it in this sense can be an individual sport, and yet there's collaboration going on to making sure that everyone also completes it.
Yeah.
And the last part is being grateful. I think you've given us a very comprehensive way to deal with crisis. How do you keep calm? I mean, do you do breathing exercise, or you tell yourself keep calm, or what do you do?
From experience, keeping calm, I realize is the best way to keep your mind stable. Certainly your breathing. If your breathing is shallow and you lose a lot more energy by panicking, your brain uses up a lot of power. How do you stay calm? Is like, how do you breathe? You just do. You just have to keep telling yourself, stay calm. It's the same thing as telling yourself.
So it's like affirmation that you
Yeah.
constantly give yourself
And,
and use that moment to sort of breathe slower and calmly.
yes, because when you panic, I'm a skydiver too, and I'm actually a little bit afraid of heights. So if I stand on a high floor and the railing is a little too low, I get very antsy. I get like my hands start sweating. But I love skydiving, and it's also a lot about skills. I don't want people to start thinking I'm a adrenaline junkie. A lot of it is skills, and a lot of it is teaching oneself the whole way up. I'm terrified. The door opened and that cold wind like rush in, your body just kind of freeze. That moment, because it's so critical to stay calm, I have to be. I love it because it's a skill building. The first few times I do it wasn't so good. I wasn't as calm as I wanted to be, but again, it's practice. And it's the same thing. Take deep breath. Tell yourself to stay present and vigilant, assessing everything. Always, assessing altitude, assessing people around you, assessing your heading, your orientation, all of that. In situation that is less critical to life and death, it's the same thing. Breathing, stay calm, even if your hands are sweating. You have to understand in moments like that, it's so clear. If you detach yourself from fear, it's not like I'm fearful. I have fear. I'm not anxious. I have anxiety. So all those things, like your hands, your palms sweating, and your leg shakes a little bit, that's not you. That's something that's happening to your body. But you're calm, you're strong, you have the ability to do this. We all have it within ourselves. We just have to bring it out.
Wow, that's really amazing. Thank you for sharing that. What do you do for a living? Where do you work? And how do you juggle practice and participating in competition and having a corporate career?
When I was like in my early 20s, I was so intrigued by the Four Desert Grand Slam. And I wanted to become the first female from Vietnam and from Southeast Asia, actually, from Asia, to be able to do this goal. So I left my corporate job and pursued that goal. A lot of people are surprised that I actually went back to the corporate life after. I really enjoy creating values for people around me. And I want to use my endurance challenges as a lifestyle to be able to have those experiences, to be the better version of myself, to bring what I learned about life from those experiences back into daily life and share those experiences with the community around me. So I work with THP, one of the biggest 3 beverage companies and the only Vietnamese beverage company that actually can goes head to head with the big MNCs like Coca-Cola and Pepsi. I come to work for them because I think we share a lot of the same values and purpose. Definitely, I love doing things that prove that nothing is impossible. And that is one of the very core values that have driven the company to where it is today, which is $1 billion enterprise. And also, we really want to bring Vietnam to the world's arena. We want to make a mark in the world for Vietnam. And so it's a natural decision to take a corporate role at THP after they have actually sponsored me for the Four Desert Grand Slam. So I work at THP full time, but I also do 1 to 2 big races a year because I love doing those endurance challenge and come back and share my experience with everyone.
You've been lucky to figure out how to blend your passion with your career, and that's awesome. I also love the fact that you shared how your own personal purpose in life, it's consistent with the organization's purpose. It's no surprise you enjoy your work and you can see the consistency on a day-to-day basis. THP also happens to be a family-owned business. And how do you find working in a family business?
I think it's great because I'm able to learn a lot. The opportunity to work closely with the family is amazing. What they are doing now, the family members are giving their hearts and minds to the company. They are actually in a much, much bigger, longer ultra endurance race than I am. And I just love that. You never see any of them stop working because working for them is very enjoyable. It's part of their life. It's part of the way they play. So if you ask the family, like, why do you work so hard? Why do you have so much energy? It's because they really get to be the best version of themselves within that environment. They get to struggle, they get to overcome, they get to inspire, they get to lead. All of that makes something that looks really difficult to the outsiders very enjoyable to them. Yeah.
Wonderful. I've never had anyone describe a family business as a ultra race. It's definitely an apt way to describe it because a family business is there for the long run. And so it's an ultra race. Tang, I wanted to ask you a new question, and it's about spirituality. Where are you in that journey? What is spirituality for you?
For me, it certainly has been a really incredible journey. I grew up in Vietnam, so I'm very practical. I grew up believing in myself. I was taught to believe in myself. I was taught to believe in hard work. The first half of my life up until now, I'm very much holding faith in myself, right? Like champion challenges, believe in myself and all that. I was very fortunate to have good friends around me in university. And the way that they are kind, smart, driven, but they are also very rooted, very grounded in some way. And at that time, I never feel like I have that security I don't have that peace of mind that I seem to observe from my friends who have their faith. So I come to explore, to question, start learning. And my friends were very nice and kind and also very patient with me. And they started inviting me to church and to Bible study. It was a journey for me as well. I've made a conscious decision, became a Christian in my second year of university. I am fully aware that, at that age, people are generally very impressionable. They feel like they need to start asking questions and need guidance. I was very conscious and I was actually a little bit afraid that, oh, am I exploring, accepting faith in this religion because of the period in my life right now? But right now, I know that it is the right choice for me, especially when you talk about spirituality. I feel that whenever I'm out there in these wilderness, in these gorgeous, beautiful place on earth and looking at thousands of stars in the sky, crossing the most beautiful places. People often think deserts are all sand, but no, they are absolutely stunning. At the Atacama Desert, there are places that look like the moon surface, just absolutely out of this world. Yeah. And I feel a certain connection out there. I feel really at peace. And even though we are limited on food and water and stripped off of all the normal luxury that we have in our daily lives, you would be sort of like in suffering mode. But no, you are really just so at peace with yourself. Even the struggle are enjoyable. And I feel a certain connection with God in those moments. And I'm not saying Christianity or certain religion is the right choice. For me, I've made a decision and made that choice. But I think that anyone who can sort of put themselves in an environment where it is just so distilled, they will be able to open up for possibilities of things and find that peacefulness within themselves. That is probably the most precious thing in terms of spirituality. So I would encourage anyone, you don't have to run thousands of kilometers across deserts or in the mountains or anything like that, but just find ways to connect again with nature, to get out of your normal daily lives. Just spend time with yourself, spend time with just the surrounding, no distraction of technology, of work, of family, of all these different worries that normal daily lives would often bring.
Well said. On the other note, we are living in a world of disruption. And I wonder sometimes whether it's possible to live a simple life. What is a simple life, and can you live a simple life today?
Such an interesting question, right? Because the definition of simple life, depending on who you ask. I have friends, I know people who live the simple life that's often understood as just not a lot of worries, not a lot of responsibilities. They're like in the outback with nature. They wake up early in the morning, watch the sunrise, sip on tea, look at the beautiful forest or river in front of their hut. They sustain from the environment, water from, the stream, food from their gardens. To some people, that's a simple life and they enjoy it because they also feel at peace. There's not a lot of worries. But I've also seen people who are in very high stress environment who are able to maintain a simple life. They may have a lot of responsibilities with the work. They may be founders or CEO of companies of very, very high performing entity, but they are very clear on the purpose of their life and how they want to live it. And I think it doesn't matter if their schedules are completely filled from Monday to Sunday, but they wake up and they understand why they wake up that day and what they need to work toward, I think that alone gives you so much strength and so much power, right? And I think for me, that's what I really want to get to. I want to wake up every day knowing that I'm still tied to that goal, tied to that purpose. Right now, especially after the pandemic, I can be very frank. During the pandemic, I was locked in, there was a lockdown in Vietnam due to a series of events. I was actually in my apartment by myself for 4 months.
Wow.
And it was very hard. I tried to keep positive, but I can tell you that because I was not able to go out there and to be myself, there were days that it was really hard to wake up and get out of bed. It was just so hard what you want to do and how you want to live your life. But in that environment, sometimes there's hopelessness, there's just a nonchalant attitude, it's just complacency, really. During that period, I also have to remind myself, I guess I'm climbing a mountain and I can't see the top, right? So it's going to be really hard. It's going to be really challenging, but I know I have to get through this in order to continue with the purpose that I have chosen. And absolutely, after the lockdown was done and I was able to get out and really be myself, express myself, it was an amazing experience. A couple of weeks after the lockdown, I was able to swim 31 kilometers in the pool for my 31st birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, and that is the longest I've ever swum, especially in a 50-meter pool. And there was no boredom, there was just joy. Right? Yeah, and I'm not a good swimmer. I have endurance, but I wouldn't say I am a good swimmer. So to pick up after 4 months of not being able to do anything to work toward my goal, just the ability to be myself and to express myself, that I feel brought a lot out in me. Yeah, the whole 16 hours in the water, it was absolutely so joyful. There was no pain that bothered me. The body feels it, but yeah, absolutely, just
Wow.
just wonderful. Yeah.
I really like what you said about living a simple life, just fulfilling on your purpose from the time you wake up in the morning till you fall asleep, really tired that you've spent all of yourself in
Yeah.
doing what needs to be done. The last question that I have for you is, what is thriving for you?
That's a really complex question for me, to be honest. But thriving for me, it means a couple of things. First of all, thriving means trying to be a better version of myself every day. Every year, I get a little bit better with what I want to do. So that sort of growing, that sort of leveling up, seeking the next challenge that will bring out, it's almost like shedding skin and growing a new version, a better self. Yes. And the second thing is that to really create meaning for this life and creating values for others, right? All these journeys that I go on, even though there's a lot of solitude, even in training or when I'm out there, but there's a lot of people in it, whether it was my coach, my friends, my family, or the community around me. I remember my very first desert race. It was wonderful. I get to engage with all kind of people because I was fundraising for a charity that helped to build bookcases for children in remote area. And these kids, I realized that what I'm doing at that point, even though it was very challenging for me, it's something that a lot of people experience on a daily basis. Kids in the mountains, the ethnic minority in northern Vietnam, it's not unusual that they go 30 kilometers just to get to school, and they cross rivers, they climb mountains, and that's just the way they go to school. And so for them, their own desert or their own ultra endurance race might be different. It might be getting to a point where they can support their family, provide for their parents, or become the first member of their family that made it to university. And I realized that. And so I want my journey to honor them and to create values for them. And so there are many points where I thought I'm kind of running out of energy. I'm running on steam. I don't know if I can hold on. But just telling myself to just take one more step, just try one more, and then one more. And then just keep telling myself one more step and remembering those kids and remembering the purpose. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel desperate or defeated. I think that was a very, very beautiful moment for me as well, because I know that if I still have it in me, I would want to try and not disappoint the cause that I have set out to help. Yeah.
Very good. So it's thriving is about being the better self every day, creating meaning for yourself and value for others. And it's about fulfilling that bigger goal that you're up to, so that the little obstacles that you face on a day-to-day basis can disappear in the face of that big goal that you're up to creating and fulfilling. Thank you so much, Thanh, for being in this podcast. I'm sure the listeners would be so excited to hear this alternative perspective that you have provided us, especially creating mental endurance through the ultra races that you have participated in and how that shows up in your life.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ramesh and Thanh, for sharing this inspiring view into what pushes an elite athlete like Thanh to top global level in these superhuman endurance sports. If you enjoy what you're hearing, be sure to share our podcast with your friends and family. And please do join us again here on our next Thriving in the Age of Disruption episode. Next up, Dr. Ramesh will be chatting with a tech entrepreneur and angel investor based in Dubai in United Arab Emirates, Mr. Rajiv Dalmia, founder and chairman of Data Direct Group.